How you guys doing? And welcome to another beta starter team where we kind of theorycraft some Godforge heroes together that we can be playing next week all together with, more importantly, your legendary heroes that you might have locked in through the Godforge quests earlier on this year, basically, that was going off, where you could have earned a free legendary weapon, and imprint. So we're going to be kind of using today another commenter. Big shout out to Asics, since he did a really nice comment, including his hero LAMASHTU. So we're going to be going over LAMASHTU here in a nice little Lamash slap setup for you in the early game, again, that you can definitely work on and start to improve with way stronger heroes, with more epics and maybe legendaries that you find along the way. And today, because I wanted to do a double special and kind of catch a lot of you guys off guard, I did want to cover MrSneakyy, but more importantly, TENGU, because he is a really cool rare hero where I think in here has just a two-man combo, and if you have this, it will definitely work for any free-to-play player, as long as these kits kind of stay the same, again, for the beta experience. And don't you worry, as we've done in the past before, anytime we're going through any of these hero kits, you will see all of the different buffs and stuff relevant to it if I don't know it on the spot. And we've even got all the armor sets that's going to be used on there while going through their kits on the Godforge website. So welcome to today's video. If you're new, if you're already been here a long time, you know what you're strapping yourself in for, so get your popcorn ready and let's just enjoy today's video. So smash like, comment and subscribe, and if you are looking to play the beta, just look down in my description right now. I have my own creator code, kind of a link you can just click on, and if you just click on that link, it will sign you up to the Godforge beta. And on top of that, because we don't like playing alone, if you want to join a pantheon, aka an alliance or a giant guild in Godforge, we have a massive cluster here that you can come onto the Raven Pyros website. Again, all these links in the description down below for you guys, and if you just come, you'll see there's a bunch of pantheons, from casual so you can learn, there's teaching even pantheons, there's competitive, semi-competitive, super hardcore degeneracy ones. So we've got a bit of a home for every single type of player here. So with that, let's get into today's video. Let's talk about a little bit of LAMASHTU and obviously go through here the Godforge team builder. So if I move myself over to the right side so it looks a little bit better in the frames, we're going to be running LAMASHTU as our main DPS, and we are going to try and take advantage of potential combos that we can have. And you'll notice with LAMASHTU, she is a very straightforward hero when it comes to the hero slot, meaning you can kind of fit it in any sort of three-man teams. And you will see in a moment how even just one rare change can just simply change this entire team again for how it works. So LAMASHTU is this AoE monster. We've got Cleopatra as our main healer, and we've got her in the leader slot because out of all of them, she does give us that speed bonus, but you can switch to Guan Yu, which is your starting hero potentially in the Godforge beta that you can pick from, one of three, as you guys should know. And then Hippolyta, really strong defender just to put into the team as well. So why have we picked these heroes? Why have we got these weapons and imprints and armor sets in? So firstly, let's explain Lamash so you understand what this hero does, because she is basically an AoE monster. That is the best way of going for it. So her basic attacks one enemy 2 times for a nice amount of damage, and if the target is defeated, you increase the damage of the next AoE by 50%. And what you'll notice is with our choice of Hippolyta, there is going to be some small synergy there just in case we can get this going. But The real power is that Feast of Unborn, right? They attack all enemies for 365% attack, and if this ability defeats 3 or more enemies, you reset the cooldown, increase the hero's divinity by 200, and an awakening 5 for each enemy defeated. You get increased attack and critical damage and speed, which is just nuts, and this does not reset between waves. So this might be really, really powerful in maybe future content, especially in dungeons where you are going to be spam wave clearing, as many people have seen in the past, like in Raid Shadow Legends with the spider boss, right? This would be an insane spider boss hero, just getting all of its attack and critical damage and speed and just nuking down, as you've guessed it, with an AoE skill, even on the boss as it scales up. So really cool hero. The way this hero also works with her kind of, I wouldn't say gimmick, but it is her passive, is all kind of working together here. And we are going to play into this with the imprint choice, which is when the hero defeats an enemy, they explode, inflicting 100% attack to all enemies, which ignores 100% defense, but cannot be critical, right? On Awakening 3, it does say after defeating 10 enemies, you do crit on it, which is a really cool thing. But all it's basically saying is if you kill anyone with maybe the demon daggers or even the AoE, you're gonna explode them and deal a bit of AoE again on top to everyone else. And this might, as you guessed it, kind of let you follow up and chain a future Feast of Unborn into a reset one, into another one, right? And that's kind of the game on here, right? Unholy Birth is a pretty good move for your ultimate, another AoE attack for two times. For each enemy defeated, you summon the Demon of Pestilence, which is this weird thing that we haven't seen yet, so I'm looking forward to see what that looks. But it does explode, which triggers Soul Eruption, which is your passive here, and has a 50% chance to place invulnerable to and acid. And this is where I do want to say, even though with the team we are going down here, because you do get vulnerable there, your starting hero can go any direction. If you chose to go Ramses, you're getting some extra acid damage out of him with that vulnerable proc. That is just because if you go into the disables here and scroll down, vulnerable is increasing the damage inflicted by debuffs by 40%. So this means when we scroll up, you'll see we have Blaze as a debuff, which deals damage. Bleed, that also deals damage, and if you scroll a little bit higher, we also have acid. And one key thing you'll notice, even our girl LAMASHTU can place acid through her ultimate as well. So when it comes to the team, just think we do have Guan Yu, and I'll explain that in a moment why. But with Lamash, you could go Ramses, get that acid increase, and have that really cool wave-based hero. Even if you chose Lady Shock, you gotta think, if you go for more of a bleed style team, you can still fit in that Lamash in there somehow, right? Because you're gonna increase the damage of what your bleed is doing over time too. And it might not be insanely powerful in synergy, but it will synergize together, which is kind of the main point I'm trying to make here, right? So Lamash overall, as you've guessed it, kind of very powerful AoE massive hitter that just kind of wants to keep going into these chain feasts, as I kind of like in this team. So what we've gone for here is Cleopatra as a epic healer, and this is going to be a healer that you can find anywhere, even in the game. So you could have an Isolde instead of Cleopatra. You could even have like a Vesna as well, which is a rare hero. You could have a bunch of different rare healers, and if that is the case, I will just tell you, it might be better to put Guan Yu or your Lady Shock or your Ramses starter as the leader, just to give everyone attack bonus, which obviously will help Lamash try to punch through. But the reason why I've kind of gone for Cleopatra, and I just kind of wanted to give her a bit of a, you know, love here, and some kind of, yeah, it's definitely love compared to the other heroes that we've covered on the channel so far, because I didn't want to repeat myself with certain invokers, because it might get a little bit boring with that. But she is a really good option for a support, right? Because you get this hero that can attack one enemy 2 times, but each hit is increasing the turn meter of all allies by 3%. You got to think that's really good for LAMASH now, because if you can set up, as you've guessed it, those AoEs, well, we can get her into turn faster now. And guess what? We're going to do a bunch of damage. So I really like this little mini synergy we've got already going on just with this one line of text on the basic. Then we've got, as we've guessed it, a healer package. We're going to heal for 1500% speed on all allies and restore 10% of their destroyed max HP. Love that. Just for potentially those dungeons that we've seen that you're going to need this kind of style of text for, which is going to be very important. But what's really nice too is you have this revive one ally with 30% HP and turn meter, and then you have an attack AoE on top, which is really nice because you got to think where even if LAMASH dies, or even your defender, or even your Guan Yu, or your starter commander that you've picked in that team, right, you're going to be able to just revive them and then set up now potentially the turn for the LAMASH again to go off. This also puts resistance up 2 on all allies for 2 turns. So that just means that when we look at any of these disables here, as well as the debuffs as well, so the disables here and the debuffs, both of those have a lower chance potentially of landing because you're increasing all of your heroes here in the team's resistance stat. And if you go into the Godforge website, you can click on that and it tells you that it makes it harder to land those debuffs and disables, which is really, really cool to see. So I do love this hero, and why I picked her especially is because she does have that leader bonus, which is 20% speed in all battles, meaning when it comes to our gearing on our armor set here, you can be a lot more greedier potentially with your speed and tune it a little bit lower as long as it's still higher than the obviously enemy team that you'll be fighting in the campaigns, in the dungeons, right, in all of the PvE content, and you're good to go, right? You can get more damage out there, which I think a lot of people really do like, because that does become the end game where you can try to sacrifice a little bit of speed to just try and block your opponents in one turn instead, right? It's a really cool play style. So there's LAMASH, there's Cleopatra, why she's coming at you, and why we've got her in this team. Really good, solid invoker that's in the epic slot, like I said, and it's not one that we've covered before. So now we've got Guan Yu, and I've got Guan Yu in here for a particular reason, because I do think you could go with any starter hero, and I do believe you could actually swap out Guan Yu for a variety of different heroes as well, just to kind of fulfill that DPS role, or setup role, as I like to call it, because there is different paths that you can take with this, and I'll show you them after we explain Guan Yu, because Guan Yu is just super solid as a rare hero. He really is, right? He's able to apply Drain 2 on all enemies on his core. So if you set your Guan Yu to go second in turn, and maybe you have your Cleopatra coming first in turn, so she can basic someone down, then she increases the turn meter, bringing that LAMASH up, and obviously taking Guan Yu as well up. He can now try to AoE everyone down and place Drain 2 on the target, right, which is going to be huge if he gets a 4-team drain, because LAMASH now can follow up and have this insane AoE drain heal on top. And what you've guessed with this hero is, even though he's doing some really good damage, he is almost like a pseudo tank, right? Or pseudo invoker, because of how good that drain is on Guan Yu's kit. He's going to help Cleo keep all of your team alive. And that is going to be really important, I think, in this team, is trying to keep you guys alive for LAMASH to do what LAMASH wants to do. And especially if you want to really have fun with the Feast of Unborn kind of mechanic, this is definitely one way you can kind of emphasize that, right? On top of this, when it comes to him, you get an initiative 2 on your hero. Obviously, you get extra damage. And like I said, if you do not get that early game Cleopatra, you can still whack this guy as your leader. That's 20% extra attack on all battles that you can be putting on your LAMASH, which later on, I will admit, you can get a really cool imprint onto LAMASH, even as I believe a rare option. I might have to find it, but you can find one, which is a really cool imprint for this hero. That's super early on too, and that's just a damage steroid. So there's Guan Yu, and now let's just finish it up with Hippolyta. So we've got all of our commanders' kits done, and you can kind of understand why we've picked these heroes in this lineup, because we do need a defender, and there is 2 really good defenders that you could be picking up here, right? And again, I'm going to explain the replacements at the end of the main core team, so you've got the full understanding, right? The Hippolyta here is just really good, right? She has a chance to place taunt on targets now, which is really good. She's able to shield, which is really, really good on the enemies. And as you've seen now, what they've done is changed the Hippolyta. They've actually buffed Hippolyta on her awakening, and I absolutely love this Hippolyta change. She's even better than before, because you get a 200% defense on all allies, and if there is anyone from Olympus, you get that speed up 1. We're not going to be doing that at the moment. However, when you awaken 5, you do get to place ward on all allies now. That is massive, because if you guys remember, the tip of the spear here was the original skill, which allowed you to attack with 1 random enemy. But if you had Olympus on Awakening 5, they always joined in the attack. And the devs just gave her it. You have 1 random ally joining the attack, and allies from Olympus always join the attack, basically, which is really cool with the heal that she already did. So we're bringing, as you've guessed it, Hippolyta into this team for simple reasons, because she is going to have that shield and ward now that we can place on everyone, which is going to keep them alive and obviously sustain while we're waiting for potentially heals or going up through drains, right, to really replenish our HP pool and use it as a resource. Then she also can get people to join attacks now. So she can get Cleopatra to join attacks, right? And as we saw with Cleopatra, she's going to increase people's turn meter. So that's already a really good, valuable target to go for. Well, if we hit our LAMASH, it's even better, right? Because if LAMASH gets that joint attack hit, well, you get to attack that one enemy 2 times and potentially either kill them or get them low enough to set up your Feast of Unborn into Feast of Unborn, right? Which is a really good little mini combo there again. And as you've guessed it, even with our boy in Guan Yu, you also have this really powerful, when you've done your core setup, to just drain targets and do 5% of the target maximum HP, which is a lot of damage when you start getting that in added joint attack combos, right? So this is just a really cool starter LAMASH team here. And like I said, there is different ways you could potentially approach this with epics and rare heroes in here. So a good example, instead of Guan Yu, is actually using heroes that you might not expect, like Mordred. Mordred would be a really cool commander to put into, or it's god to put into your team here for you, because Mordred is a disruptor, but he's a disruptor that can be built to deal some damage. But because of the confuse mechanic as a whole, and obviously bringing the potential to chance to bring corrupt into the team as well, you're going to allow the enemy to hit each other, which is again helping LAMASH do those AoE big turns when you need to do them, and again, more importantly, confuse the enemy, which is going to skip their turn, because confuse is a nasty little debuff which makes the enemy hit each other and skip their turn. It's as simple as that. And it's with their basic ability too. So if they've got some very good basic abilities, like an AoE one, well, guess what? Their own team gets AoE'd. It's kind of devastating for them. So that's just already more dread in that lineup, right? You could even swap out Hippolyta, and I do think one of the more really pushing the boundaries of this, and we've got him in the other team as well for a similar reason, is Sargon. Sargon is honestly becoming one of my little early game favorite commanders in the game, because he is a defender, and what he is trying to do is damage extend your team, which is super cool to see really early on, because what he's allowing you to have is this basic ability, and whenever you basic, you're going to have a random ally join in the attack as well. So you can imagine if any of these heroes, including if we put back Guan Yu here, there we go, if our Sargon makes Guan Yu, Lamash, or Cleopatra do any sort of basic attack, it's going to be beneficial, as you've seen with the team. And it's much easier to access, as you guys have guessed it. You're going to be able to use stuff like the Avenger set, as well as the Lurking Presence imprint that we've got here, and force him to just join as many counterattacks and basically attack on retaliation as possible to get these guys constantly bouncing off him. And it's basically a Sargon domino effect. That is the best way to put it. So you can do a variety of different things here, as you've seen, but for us, we're going to keep it, as we said, with Hippolyta. So that is the team we've got set up. Hopefully it makes sense for you. Let's go through the weapons and imprints and armor sets, and then we can move on to the next team, which is Tengu, which is going to be super fun to use as well because of how powerful this duo rare combo is, right? So we've gone for Fanax. I'm going to be honest, I'm starting to really like the Fanax conspiracies and theories. Everyone reading this is really enjoying it because it is healing an ally. It has a 100% chance to heal this hero for 50% of the strength. This is once per turn, yes, but if it's going between turns, this could be going quite crazy, right? And we've got our Cleopatra already doing a really good heal already on her core, which is very nice because now she's healing herself as well as all allies and getting even more value out of it. With my personal rare favorite, and I'm sorry I have to put it always in, it is renewal bonds. This thing is just seeming really good. When an ally is healed, all allies receive 5% of that healed amount. And as you guessed it, with a giant AoE heal, with another AoE heal, it just adds up. This also goes into our armor set, which is the Shrine Gear. Our Shrine Gear basically is like this staple healing set, if you want to call it that. It increases your healing provided by 15%, which is good. You heal 10% of your own HP at the start of turn, so you keep sustaining yourself. And then on a 6-piece set, you heal all allies 5% of their maximum HP at the start of the turn. And you got to think, this little 6-piece set as well, when it's triggering, is going to help that renewal bonds and even potentially trigger that Fanax early on when we don't even need it, right? So it's one of those cool things that you could do. Some people might say you only might need a 4-piece set on the Shrine, which I also would agree with, because if you go to the armor set, you could heal yourself and all of this in one go, right? And if you ignored this 6-piece set, you could always guarantee when your core ability goes off to get the really powerful imprint bonus on top as well, because at the moment this is gonna do obviously a bunch of healing, right? So it could kind of interfere maybe with the renewal bonds, but I don't know until we see how this all works, honestly, until game. But you've heard it here. I've already got the concerns. I've already thought about it, and we are going to address it, right? So for Lamash, we're going down the Molyneux and Static Torrent build. And the thing is, this imprint could be anything in the game. But I do think Molyneux is a very clever weapon choice, because you get your every third hit doing 110% more increased damage. And if you go back to your Lamash's skills, you got to remember, your basic ability here is on a 2-hit timer, with this going straight in, going for your third hit, basically. So you should be able to basically set up this very well. And even when you do demon daggers into a joint attack, demon daggers, you're building that steroid up again, and you're getting just a lot of value out of a Molineer for your LAMASH. And that's just going to help you, again, get your enemies down low enough. So if you want to feast and born, and then try to feast and born, and then go into another one, you're going to be able to do that now, right? So I do love how this weapon can really work with LAMASH, but it is going to be one of those trial and error things on there. There is a bunch of other stuff you could just run, something like Mocha Hill's not bad. Even maybe in a different build, you could run something like Namsaru with some really cool mechanics as well, and like mirror to mirror the buffs onto him, and she just doesn't get them, but they get the permanent steroid. Definitely, there's a lot of really cool options that you could go down on there, but we're sticking with Molineer. Static Torrent, though, is a really fun imprint if you can get hold of it, because Static Torrent is your explosions on explosions. That is the best way of putting it. I'm gonna be real with you, right? So when we type in static, right, so you can see this Static Torrent, each hit from this hero has a 25% chance to inflict extra damage to a random enemy of 10% of the damage inflicted. So, as you've guessed it here, as we AoE, each hit can do this extra static torrent charge, and then if any of them die, it's going to explode, and if it's from our Feast Unborn, it's going to reset it so we can do it again. So you can see this is a lot of really cool, clever, just chip damage that you can always do in your LAMASH. And you've got to think, when you double hit, each hit has got a chance to static torrent, and if you go into a joint attack again, you've got another 2 opportunities. So you're really trying to get this to go off in here, which is, again, I honestly think a very little clever imprint setup that you can run on LAMASH. Is it the best one? I don't know, but it's beta, and it is time to have a little bit of fun and experiment with your heroes that you've picked, right, in the game. But there is some good rare ones in here. I'm going to try and find it if it is. Stuff like Crimson Berserker is very clever. This is giving you 10% increase in damage on there. But there is another one that you can pick that I'm going to try and find for you. This one, Feast of the Strength. Cyclops' imprint on LAMASH could be a really powerhouse early game move if you don't want to use your imprint, or if you don't own that static torrent imprint and you've gone for a different option. Because Feast of the Strength says, before attacking, this hero will increase their attack by 2.5% of this hero's combined attack. And that is kind of insane, because if you have another hero like we already do, Guan Yu, and you actually build him with a good amount of attack and a little bit of survivability in there, and as you've guessed it, your Cleopatra is going to have a bunch of HP and speed with a bit of attack, Hippolyta, defense, speed, maybe with a little bit of attack in there on purpose, and LAMASH is just steroided up really well, and that is before she gets to attack. So you got to think, this AoE now has that steroid on, this has the steroid on, and if you kill someone with the basic, you get that 50% increase in damage plus all of the attack now on top going through, which is just a really fun rare imprint that you can pick. So honestly, keep an eye out on that. For armor sets, we're going for the Avenger and Claw set. This is kind of, I think, something that you can have a little bit of a tweak around, you know, check it out yourself. But the aim of the game, as you've guessed it, is to try and get as many low enemies as possible. So we're going to heal for 15% damage when we attack, so we have our own little bit of self-sustain. We get 25% chance now to counter-attack, which is big, because anytime, again, someone attacks us, if LAMASH hits them with the double attack, the static torrent can go off, and if they die, we get that increase in damage, Feast Unborn is going off, right? Then, because we're doing so much damage and we really want to do as much damage as we can, I did go for a 2-piece claw set, and this is going to give us crit percentage. And I do think if you build this hero, one thing to note at the very top there is where you can get crit percent, which is your helmets here. You can also get it on your gauntlets, right? So your helmets and gauntlets can have crit percent. So if you get a 2-piece claw, which is gauntlets and helmet, main stat crit rate, you're probably going to get 100% crit rate easily with just that. And that's all you're going to need, right? And that's very minimal investment needed to get 100% crit rate, and then go for your damage and all the other main stats that you're gonna need, right? So the mash there on the team builder, really easy and to work through. Guan Yu is honestly very similar. We went for the wolf and claw set, very similar reasonings. The only difference is wolf gives you attack. So we get 1% extra attack on each turn, and then we get a 30% bonus in attack as well. And this is where I do want to mention with the wolf set, and as you probably guessed it, you could technically run wolf here on LAMASHTU and definitely run the feast, not the feast one, the Cyclops imprint to really damage story the attack on that Lamash. So that's something to keep an eye on. Just so as you guys know, I've been Theorycrafting a long time on here, so it's one of those things that I've been keeping an eye on. So it is a really cool little armor synergy that you've got that you can go with, and imprint synergy on there. Guan Yu's imprint, so lurking presence is just to punish people. So anytime they try to debuff our guy, we're going to retaliate potentially with a 25% attack. And as you guys have guessed it, if Guan Yu attacks, he's going to do a bunch of damage. If they're drained, he's going to do even more damage, and we get to heal. And what's crazy is I couldn't really figure out a good option for the weapon, because obviously with the options we got just on the website for the Raven Pirates one, it doesn't include any rare weapons that we've potentially seen since then, right? And the thing is, you could go different routes. You could go down a damage reduction route. So for example, like you could go, I think it's Liar. So you can reduce the chance to weak hit, and this hero increases 50% increased damage from strong hits, which does synergize with the command with Guan Yu, because if he strong hits, he does a bunch more stuff, as you guys kind of know. Also, there is like, not Predwen, but I'm trying to find what the defense one is. This one, yeah, Xiaoji. So you got to think any of these epic weapons that can reduce damage from something could be a really good option to put on to the Guan Yu just to keep him alive out there. But I did go down the Divine Bow because it says additional hits against the same target is increased by 22%. And the thing is, this is a very cool bow in most scenarios. You gotta think, I can use Guan Yu to drain down targets, attack the same target multiple times, get increased damage onto them because we're hitting onto him, right? And then hopefully get some Lamash follow-up. If it doesn't work as I'm hoping it's going to work, it's okay, because like I said, we're going to go for an alternative, because I did already come up with a backup here, which is Art of War. This is a simple idea. We're going to use the Art of War to try and gain as much divinity as possible in the early game for Guan Yu, and as you've guessed it, that's going to allow us in the important turns to combo our Guan Yu's ultimate, do a bunch of AoE, which is attacking 4 random enemies, right? And then get that Lamash to follow up and clear out the team. So simple as that. When it comes to Hippolyta, we've done Inanna and as well as Dragonhorn skin. The Inanna is a really good weapon, I think, for this type of hero. If you need a hero to get that, you know, ultimate off as often as possible, this is just a really good weapon choice. 33% less effectiveness on divinity reductions on yourself, which is just good. So when the enemies are trying to slow you down, this is going to stop them and slow them down, right? Which is a really good value. And because of that, we've got the Dragonhorn skin. I just think it's a really good rare early game imprint, and it just showcases you can find rares, epics, and legendary imprints that you can go with to upgrade from. But all Dragonhorn does is heal for 15% of any of the damage inflicted when you are attacked, which is really good. So again, AoEs, you get to heal off them. If someone targets you specifically, you get to heal 15% of the damage. So you shouldn't really ever die. It should sustain you through, especially with the Guan Yu and especially with the Cleopatra in this team setup. So there we go. Cleopatra coming at you, LAMASH, all in that setup. So hopefully, ASICS, you appreciate today's video on your team. So that is the first team, like I said, for you guys, but it isn't going to be the last one because we've got one more team to go through, and it's going to be more talking about, honestly, a couple of rare heroes that you can find in the game, slap them together, and honestly, if you find two other solid options that you can see I have done, you're going to have a really cool team here that you're going to have. And it is to do with TENGU, the Windcaller. He is a very cool disruptor and actually pretty powerful if you just work on a little bit of synergy with this hero. So what he does is his basic ability attacks one enemy, and you have a 50% chance to start stealing buffs on the target. That's really good because in waves, you're going to steal buffs. Well, against bosses, you can steal potentially certain buffs, which is going to be really good. And what's even cooler is if the target, and this is what's really important, if the target is under a sleep or a corrupt, you have a 50% chance to steal an additional buff. So we can steal 2 buffs from the basic alone. Our core has the corrupt on a 50% chance on attack all enemies, which is really cool. So what corrupt does for you guys, as you might be wondering what the hell it is, the hero that places this debuff steals any buff placed on the enemy. So what he's doing, as you've guessed it, TENGU here, is he's going to be stealing any buffs through the corrupt trigger or through his basic, which is a very little nasty kit to have in a rare commander, right, in your team. You also get to place a 60% chance sleep with the chance of having a 2-turn sleep instead if they're under the corrupt as well, and this is on an AoE as well. So you get double AoE, one single target, and the passive which says when this hero steals a buff from an enemy under corrupt, you decrease the turn meter of all enemies by 10%, and you increase the turn meter of this hero by 10%. So he makes everyone go down 10, he comes up by 10. So he's going to try and overtake the fight in this updraft, as you guessed it. Absolutely insanely cool rare hero kit this is, right? And the thing is, you can definitely make a team around this, as you've seen here. We're going to be running TENGU with the all-star trio here of Tutankhamun and Sargon. Honestly, these 3 together, again, with a similar concept to before, is gonna go off the rails for free-to-play players, because the leader slot could be any leader you really want to go with in here, just to keep them alive as an evoker for you. So what I did is pick MrSneakyy just to showcase a different legendary hero that a lot of people actually did lock in after seeing that she restores destroyed HP, which is going to be a very important mechanic in one of the dungeons in the beta, which I don't want to spoil for you because I want you guys to get into it and have some surprises, right? So yeah, we're running MrSneakyy in here. So why this rare hero combo works so well is because of these 2 heroes first. TENGU, we already know what he does. Tutankhamun is the hidden piece in the source, right? This rare hero is bonkers, right? Because you're going to be able to place this acid and curse onto the enemies with your corruption going on as well now. And then as well placing drain and vulnerable onto the enemies with attacks having a 100% chance to curse the enemy. Why is this so big, Sneaky? Well, curse reduces incoming healing and shields by 15%. Why? And that's why I'm laughing. Because now with TENGU, and with your Tutankhamun, you can basically steal any buffs and you're going to reduce any healing and shielding by 50%, which is going to make, honestly, your life probably in the later game a lot easier, right? Because this is what most of the things start to scale off on, and it gets a little bit out of control. On top of this, as we've seen, we get acid and we get to place vulnerable on the enemies. This is a really cool little combo because acid is going to deal maximum HP damage to the enemies. This is 5% and it inflicts double damage to shields and barriers, which works perfectly with the curse. But then it also disables armor sets, which is a nice bonus. So if you're in PvP, you've got this powerhouse that's aciding enemies, cursing and acid enemies on an AoE, and then doing a bunch of other stuff down here on the ultimate, right? Which is just, it's just kind of crazy. And what's really nice in dungeon battles, you get 15% crit rate, which can help you as a leader bonus choice if you want to. If you've got the speed but lack crit, this is a cool thing to go for. And yeah, with those two guys, as you've guessed it here, you've got this really deadly debuffing setup team. And to make it all kind of work is, you've guessed it, Sargon. Sargon is just, as we kind of showcased earlier, a powerhouse in these style of teams, because Sargon is going to allow you to, again, just join attacks. And the thing is, we join attacks with a random ally, and you've guessed it, and we target that Tengu. Well, guess what? Tengu is going to potentially be stealing and stealing more and more and more and more buffs off the enemy while being able to get this corrupt ready to go off again. The one thing you can do with this team that I will completely agree on is Tutankhamun definitely is not the 100 best in slot combo with Tengu, by no means, right? The best actual hero in this, as you probably guessed it, is other heroes in the game that can place corrupt. So when you go in here, you can look at Mordred as a epic disruptor that can do it, as well as a Himiko. And as you notice, both of these commanders here on there have this on their basic, which is super important. Yes, you can run Anubis, that's got it on his core here as well. You can also run some other commanders that have got it in their core abilities as well, but you want it on the basic ability, because if you get it on the basic ability, as you've seen it with Mordred now, what we're going to be able to do is kind of replace that Tutankhamun with Mordred. And what Mordred's going to do for you is enable that Tengu even more, right? Mordred's job is pretty simple in this team. They're going to confuse the enemies down so you can skip turns on important turns. And then for Sargon, he has a target to place additional corrupts on the enemy. And as you've guessed it, if you're placing additional corrupts on the enemy through Mordred, well, your Tengu here is going to be constantly stealing, again, more buffs. Because there's more corrupts, that means there's more opportunities and more uptime on that combo. So definitely a really cool combo that you can go with. And obviously we're going to kind of finish it out on this one for you guys, so you can see how cool this was. It was. But again, you can go with anyone in this slot 3 as long as they've got a really powerful kind of basic and core combo, which can definitely synergize with Tengu, just to kind of put it out there, right? So MrSneakyy is our legendary hero that we put into this to kind of give us some love and to kind of remind you guys of this legendary hero that is a very powerful invoker, probably in the beta right now. This is because she has a basic ability which can be targeted through Sargon again, which restores 20% of destroyed HP allies with the most destroyed HP. This makes her massive in these certain dungeons where the bosses are going to destroy your maximum HP. Then on top of it, she has removed 2 debuffs from all allies and then place and block debuffs on each target, so we get to remove bad stuff from ourselves and stop future debuffs coming on us for 2 turns. Then it also heals all allies for 20% of her HP, while her Awakening 3 also placing a resistance of 2 on this and it cannot be removed, which is just, again, very powerful healing ability all in one in that Cycle of Dusk. The Twilight Eclipse revives all defeated allies, which is really good because you can revive one or all. This makes her kind of a really big target, which is fair play on her. But she also has some really cool gimmicks to it, because she also increases 40% HP in turn meter of those revived allies, restores 50% of each ally's destroyed HP, and increases their divinity by 20%. And on Awakening 1, places vanish on all those revived allies, basically, except from herself. So again, really, really good. Allows you to just get through a bunch of the content. And as you guessed it here, with the leader bonus, you have the 25% speed. So you can use this hero in these dungeons where, kind of, you've guessed it, this team is kind of designed potentially to be in, where you're stealing as many buffs from the dungeon bosses and just kind of sustaining through and just plowing down as you can. And again, in those scenarios, maybe you don't run Mordred and you switch back to something like a Tutankhamun instead, just to get that kind of synergistic combo running again. But just remember, if you can get more corrupts on there, it is going to benefit Tengu. But for a little early game Trinity, like, nasty team, I do love this, right? When it comes to the weapons, imprints, and in the armor sets for it, it's quite simple. We're running Grail. This is just a very easy weapon to whack on our Metazilla. It's just going to give you 44% increase healing output, which is good. You got Renewal Bonds, which is, again, really powerful because we're doing that massive 20% heal, and then we're getting that bigger heal on top of that, right? So whenever they healed, receive 5% of that healing amount. So obviously it's only a small amount, but it's still adding up of that huge 20% HP heal that we're doing. So you'll notice this is a really nasty combo. And the Shrine doing the exact same thing. Shrine is just going to heal, as you guys have seen before in the video, as much on the allies as possible. When we go into the Tengu, we're going to be running Rogatina, I want to call it, Rogatina. This is a cool weapon I chose for some obvious reasons. When a buff is stolen, you increase this turn meter by 22%. So you got to remember, we as a Tengu player have that kind of baked in to our passive. So Tengu's passive says, when this hero steals a buff under Corrupt, we get that extra 10% turn meter on ourselves, and we stop 10% on them, right? So now imagine we're going to do that 10% and we're getting a 22%. So in theory, we're getting a 32% increase in turn meter, and then they lose 10%. So every 3 buffs, we basically are taking a turn. That is the best way of explaining it. Every 3 buffs you steal, you're taking a turn. And as you've guessed it, we've got Fool's Courage as a really clever option, which says when an enemy's buff expires or is removed, right, you decrease 5% of their turn meter, and when an enemy debuff expires or is removed, you decrease 5% of the divinity, which again kind of works with what we're doing already. So we're decreasing basically any of their buffs by 15% because we're going to be stealing them because they're getting removed most likely in that text, and at the same time, we're gaining a bunch of actual turn meter ourselves. There is other things you can do, as you've guessed it. Lurking Presence, All-Star Imprint for Tengu. You got to think, anytime they receive debuffs, which they're going to be getting through the corruptions, or through your Tutankhamun doing his acid, or doing his other buff. What is it now? Not corrupt, but curse. There we go. So he's doing curse, acid, and drain all in one. So Lurking Presence is actually a really cool thing, because when you're going against those same style of heroes and you're getting it onto Tengu, he can flash back, right? Another really good one is Lingering Omen. Whenever the enemy increase their turn meter, you again get to hit with your basic ability and try and steal more. So there is a lot of different options if you really want to try and check them out for him. But I do think Fool's Courage is a really clever one because of just how his kit is working with all three of these. And because of that, we did go down the Avenger and Body set, which gives us the ability. So when we go scroll up, we have the ability to do 15% increased damage from our basics, which we're going to be doing a lot because Sargon is going to join the attacks and we're going to be trying to do it ourselves. And then the 4-piece Avenger set heals for 15% damage when we attack, and we get a 25% chance to counterattack, which again is going to use our basic ability, which is going to be increased. So again, really good little combo because if they attack us and they got corruption on them, they're going to get their buffs stolen. So it is with those teams, as you've guessed it, all about Tengu trying to get him going. And TENGU's a really good early game option because we got stuff like Golden Bow as the choice where you can just go for crit rate and heal himself because he can do a lot of damage with his built-in crit percentage on that leader bonus. You can run Crimson Berserker. This is just, again, an option to showcase. You increase the damage by 2.5% for each limit ally. So again, he's going to be kind of like your main DPS, while Tengu is kind of like stealing buffs and just being an absolute nuisance. And Sargon is getting both of them to do that whole thing. Or MrSneakyy comes in, you know, and does her basic. So that's kind of the whole plan on that. The armor set is Razor, pretty simple ability to understand. We're trying to again place debuffs, and this is inflicting 10% increase to enemies under debuffs, and we get a 25% chance to place bleed on top of this now, and we increase the turn meter by 5% after placing a debuff. And as you guessed it, our guy, our boy, TENGU places a lot of debuffs, so he's going to hopefully get his turn meter going up as well. So this is just a really powerhouse little team, I think, that you could be trying out in the early phase. And then Sargon, just because you might have had this weapon and imprint locked in for future users, I just put on Unyielding Trickster and Forge Fire. I think it's very easy to understand why. We get a 25% chance to join in on attacks. And if we join in on ally attacks, that's our basic ability. And that means someone else joins in the attack as well. So we get a chain of joint attacks on here. He gets Immortal as well to keep himself alive, with Forge Fire, which is allowing him to stay alive as well between his turns. So he can do his first turn, then afterwards reduces 28% of damage he receives, which is really good for him. Then we're running the armor set of Body, which again kind of works with a whole plan of what this hero tries to do. He's going to be increasing basic ability damage. He heals all allies with his basic ability now, so you just keep basicing down. It's really nice. And then if you do basic, guess what? You have a 15% chance to gain an extra turn after using that basic ability. So again, you might be able to go into joint attack into joint attacks. It could just get really, really crazy potentially with the Sargon here. So Mets in Tengu special, as we named it here. And then our first team for ASICS, the LAMASHTU Slap team, that you can be definitely running in beta. That just hopefully gives you guys some ideas of how I was looking at these heroes and how I was giving even alternatives to these different teams, as we said with Guan Yu, with obviously Mordred as a really cool example on there. Same with over here, replacing TENGU for Mordred as well. Makes his team really powerful as well for just an epic hero that you can find maybe in early game from your summons, right, from playing it. So these teams, if you want to just keep them or have an access to them, they will be in the links down below. As you guys know, I do add in all the links for obviously the Raven Paris website, which has these on. We also add in the link for the Pantheon, as well as the Godforge.gg website, which is a bit lower down, but we do also have that on there. So if you guys have enjoyed the video, smash a like, comment, and subscribe. And just one last time, if you do want to join a cluster and a Pantheon and learn Godforge with me and join me on this new adventure, on this new channel, you know what to do. Come here, come and join us. We've got a bunch of content creators and a bunch of Pantheons ready for you to come and join in and have the fun with. So with that, use my link down below to join the beta starting next week. And until the next one, stay safe, stay sneaky. Peace out.